about chairs, we're still looking for more chairs. Maybe, is the guy still looking for chairs at the back? Do you know? He's going to get them. There's two at the front. There's two more chairs at the front.
Thank you.
Right, good evening everyone. Welcome to the first meeting of the Ryde Society of 2019. Thank you all so much for coming, and a very, very happy, prosperous and healthy new year to all of you. What a good new year! Yeah. As you would say from where I come from. Right, this is the hat, and it's coming round. We do have some expenses, but we're just saving up in case. So please be generous. Minutes of the last meeting were on the website, and if anyone has any points they would like to bring up about the minutes, I have one or two, but is there anyone who would like to? Does anyone? Yes?
Stella, with this money you're collecting, we've not received a statement of the original money we donated. Is there such a thing?
That's fine, it was £176, I think. The treasurer is actually standing at the back of the room, and Paul, who has the second signature, is here as well.
Okay, well, as we've never seen that, we just wonder what we're donating into and how much is
Yes, Paul, would you like to say?
We're donating,
Yep.
We're donating for the future. Obviously, we want to see Ryde come back again. A lot of us remember Ryde from our youth. And we need a fund to fight these things. But at the moment, it's a question of printing and emails and websites and things like that. But we do need a fund, and there is a fund of 100 and something.
It was 176.
So that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, for me, you don't have to explain that. It was just the fact that we had donated, and we never got a statement or seen the bank account. Not that we're challenging anybody, but we just wonder, what the money is being spent on, and how much there is.
Scans of the plans.
Yes, we have to scan the plans. There was a lot of work. We've done a lot of work, and I dealt with that all when.
And it's all been receipted, hasn't it?
Got receipts for everything. So yeah, it will be published.
AGM.
It's just that it's not there at the moment.
No, there will be an AGM in the spring at some point. We need to have one, and that will be there. Okay? Right. It's a very good question. Thank you. Anyone else? Right, well, I have one or two matters arising. First of all, the main action that I had to do was to get some information on the rethink, or on the plans for the future. And I think I did reasonably well on that, because here we have the Director of Regeneration, who is, I think I'm right in saying, going to give us the first presentation of that, am I right? Yes, of that rethink tonight in the second part of our meeting. So we have Mr. Ashman here to show you all what is the alternative to what we've seen before. We've also, is Councillor Lilly here?
Councillor Lilly will be along a little later.
Okay.
She's only meeting tonight in Council.
Fine, that's no problem. Because I had that. I did have one other question. Perhaps one of the Ryde Town Councillors can answer it. What's the position now with the position statement that has it gone into the...
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes, I can answer. Yes, I'm Diana Conyers. I'm Deputy Chair of the Ryde Town Council Planning Committee. Yes, the position statement was sent to the Council. We have had a period of consultation in which we have very good responses from a number of public meetings. We are collating those at the moment. We're also preparing comments on the draft island planning strategy, which I think is on your agenda to mention. I think on the whole we feel that the draft strategy has incorporated quite a bit of what was in the position statement, but we'll be obviously making available our comments on it in due course.
Okay. And in relation to that, that was the other thing that we need to be, and as a group, our great strength is our numbers. Not just the people sitting in our rather warm room tonight, but also all your friends. We need to make comment on the draft island planning strategy development plan. I think I've got the words in the right order. And that plan is, you can find the link on the website for the Ryde Society, the rydesociety.co.uk. It's all one word, which makes it a bit awkward sometimes, but it will come up if you put it all in as one word, and the link to the plan is there. There are sections, it's a 200 plus page document, there are sections on Ryde or on this coast, so that that's really worth everyone inputting something. If you have the time. If you have time, do look at it, do read it, and make your comments.
Stella, could I add one other thing, which I just remembered? That,
Just shout.
yeah, there will be a special meeting of the planning committee open to all councillors and to all members of the public on the 29th of January. That's when we'll be finalising our comments.
Okay, did everyone hear that? 29th of January, is that in Lynn Street?
In Lynn Street, but please don't all come because we'll never get in.
We'll stand in the streets.
Diana.
Okay.
Is it 7 o'clock?
What time, Diana?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. At 7.
It'll be
And
on
there's
the-
also a planning meeting tomorrow night, if anyone at Lynn Street again. Same venue, 7 o'clock, Lynn Street. Right. Otherwise, Jenny, is Jenny here from Nicholson Road? Nicholson Road, Jenny? No, not here yet? Yes? Yes. Do you have anything, any updates for us, Jenny, on anything?
It's all gone totally quiet. We've heard absolutely nothing for some considerable time, so I should be very interested to hear what Mr. Ashman has to say when he gives his report a little bit later.
I think basically the presentation will be more on the front. Have you any comment? You've got the whole thing. That's fine. Okay, thank you, Jenny. Karen. Karen. Parking.
Very contentious. I just want to introduce myself. I'm Karen Lucioni, councillor, Ryde Town Councillor, and I was the one that initiated the parking petition for Ryde, which was well supported with 3,881 people that signed it. Thank you very much. It was the first petition for a while, and there's 3 more coming along at full council on this Wednesday, one being for Newport. So a lot of people feel very emotive about parking. So basically I just talked about how I wanted to support the High Street. I mean, lots going on in Parliament at the moment about what the High Street will look like in 2030. And one thing that came out of that, I think Zoe will agree with, is that it's going very much service orientated again, and Ryde is already doing that. When you go into Ryde, lots of shops look after you very well. We don't have the big conglomerates that are really being hit. So I just wanted to introduce myself, but I'm also keeping a close eye on St Michael's Church up in Haylands. It's had its doors closed.
Yes, but it's beautiful.
It's such a beautiful church. Yeah, I'm really taken with it.
Plays the organ there.
Yeah.
For, you know, just because it's there.
It's beautiful.
And when I went in, I couldn't believe how beautiful box, beautiful pictures.
And it's a grade 2 star listed building. I don't know how many people have been in there, but it is very ornate, isn't
What
it?
are they going to do with it?
Well, I believe Lee Burns is going to talk to the diocese for us to say that it is a listed building, and what are you going to do with it? So basically, at the moment, there's work that's got to be done on it, and they say that they've run out of people's money to do it.
So there's no
worship goes on
There's
there.
no
It's not
worship
church,
goes on, no.
And all the community groups of which there's a lot.
Absolutely.
None of
And it was
them
really-
are able to use
They haven't got a
them.
PCC either, I don't think.
No, I don't think they were interested in doing it, in all fairness.
No, it did
But
sound
all
like
I'm
that.
interested in is it's a beautiful building that needs to be saved. And people should see it, how beautiful it is inside.
You can
It's probably
see
one
it.
of the only churches I've been to that I feel so at peace when I go in there. It's on the, is it the ley line, the energy line? It goes right through the church. Thank you. That's me.
Thank you. Godfrey, could you go and see if you can find some chairs, please? There's 6 needed, or 7. Poor guy. The other thing arising from the last minutes was, or at least one of the other things, one of the other things was during his talk, Ian Boyd talked about various things like SSSIs, SPA, and Ramsar. And I thought, well, not everybody in the room is actually going to know what these are, so I did actually look them up, and I thought, well, I'll bring it up in Matters Arising tonight. And an SPA is a Special Protection Area. It's basically a European designation, and our whole area out here is an SPA. So all of the beach, the harbour area, the pier, the whole area is a special protection area, and it is basically it's within the European directives, and it's basically for migratory birds, and it's an area of very high importance. An SSSI we're all a bit more familiar with, a site of special scientific interest, and this includes the crustaceans and things in the harbour itself. There is a special designation for the harbour inside the harbour itself, and then for the whole of the area again. It stretches. We're talking about stretching from this side of Fishbourne right out to Puckpool. And then the last one is a Ramsar site. There are 71 Ramsar sites now in the UK. This was one of the first, or at least the Solent was one of the first. Ramsar was the city in Iran where in 1971 there was a huge conference about biodiversity, ecology, and one of the first sites in the UK to be given this world international designation. An international designation included our mud out there. The whole of that area that we look at and we see the tide going in and out of is a wetlands internationally important area. And I just thought I'd tell you all that because I didn't know. I mean, until Ian actually said it, I was completely unaware of that.
For seabirds, is it
It's particularly for seabirds, but also for anything that lives in the water or above it.
like mussels and winkles and
Well, all sorts of stuff. Mud's important, and it's important to all of us, obviously, to the whole thing. So I thought, right, I'll just tell you all. I've actually put my notes and the details on the website, so they're there. So if you want to look, they are all in there. Right, the next matter arising was, I didn't say, the consultation period for the plan has been extended to the 25th of February. Another thanks that I have tonight is, as you know, we have sent in a nomination for the harbour itself to be a community asset. And tonight I'd very much like to thank Mr. Hutchinson for coming to talk to us, or not to talk to us, but to answer questions at the end of our meeting about the area out there and about what is actually happening. So that opportunity will come after Mr. Ashman's presentation. Before that, the original ideas of the Ryde Society was a non-political sort of focus for the town. There are some wonderful things going on in this town. There is the business association, there are all sorts of clubs, societies, from bridge to knitting. And it's actually got so much going on. And one of the ideas was that this be an actual kind of focus for that. I once saw a lady with a load of piglets, and the only way to get them going all in the same direction was actually to tie them to the leg of the mother pig. And it worked remarkably well. But it gives you an image of that sort of the idea of having everything pulling together so that the society will actually not so much represent, but become a source of information and inspiration for all of us in Ryde to make of this town what it really is. And to focus, I mean, obviously on its Georgian heritage, which it is, but also what we are currently doing, but not just with our older people, with our younger people. And I'd love to get some more here. So if you've got grandchildren or children who might come along, please tell them. They might, you know, it could probably last half of it. Okay. The next thing in linking to that is that we wanted to have some art and some things like showing what is going on in Ryde and what has gone on. And Mo Martin has very kindly brought along this wonderful artwork which has recently been gifted to the community.
There was a wonderful artist here in Ryde called Sarah Kouvratitis, and she was a great friend of mine, and she died unfortunately in October. And I spoke with her siblings, who do not live on the island, they live on the mainland, and with a little negotiation, they decided to donate all of her art, everything that she left behind, which is considerable, to the community. So it all belongs here in Ryde, and it belongs to the community. It's a wonderful selection of all sorts of things. She was absolutely driven to paint. She wasn't well. She had a chronic illness which finally killed her. But during the time that she had, she never stopped painting on everything possible. And when she ran out of canvases or wood or whatever, she made these wonderful papier-mâché creatures from her imagination. They're just fantastic. So that is all here now in Ryde, in the community. And we hope that we find some way of enjoying it. Unfortunately, the first thing that people asked me was, where can we see this art? Well, at the moment, we can't, because unfortunately there is no venue here, and there's no place where we can exhibit art or have a community art centre. That's something that needs to be addressed. So that's but our wonderful librarian, Jo, has jiggled her schedule, and we are going to have an exhibition of some of Sarah's art from February the 1st in the library throughout the whole month. So you can see it there, and I do encourage you to go along. She's just so spirited and so lively for someone in her position. And there's just a great selection of different kinds of art that she did, you know, like a true artist, she moved through various phases, and it's all very colourful and wonderfully spirited. So I ask you to go along to that. However, this is the point where I have to ask for help, because all her art has been stacked and put down in the storage area of the library, which is on the underneath the library. It needs some of it that we can get access to, because there's a lot of it. We'll have to come up the stairs and across the library and up another flight of stairs into the gallery. Now, I can't do it on my own, so I'm going to ask some of you if you can find the time, maybe just an hour or two, on Wednesday, the last Wednesday of the month, which is the 27th, I think, and also on the Friday, the last Friday of the month, which is the 29th, to hang the paintings, and then on Saturday the 1st, the exhibition will be open. Now, some of you have my email address through the Ryde Society, but I also have some personal cards here. I'm very happy to give them to you or leave them on tables if you want to pick them up. So that's Wednesday and Friday, the last 2 days of the month. And we'll have just a few people, maybe 4 or 5, to help carry this stuff up to the gallery. It would be very helpful.
Somebody at the back.
I can't hear you.
2 volunteers at the back.
2 volunteers down there.
Volunteering. Good. If you could email, I'd be terribly grateful, because you know, we need to just get a few people at a certain time of the day. It'll probably only take an hour and a half, maybe longer on a Friday, because hanging art is quite a particular thing. But if we can get 3 or 4 or 5 people together, I hope we can make a wonderful exhibition, and it's for the community. So it's not going to be sold, it's not going to disappear, it's all there for you. Thank you.
Where's the email?
Right, and the last thing, as all of you know, we have today put in the nomination for the Ryde Harbour to become a community asset. This is a process which I knew nothing about 3 days ago, and which, with help from John and various other members of our committee group, we put together something which we hope will be considered, I'm sure. That basically just means that this is a community asset. It has a little bit of perhaps protection, but it's a first step in ensuring the future of the area out there, and I think it fits in with the plan that Chris will come up with in a moment. Is there anything else that I've forgotten?
Sorry. No, I just wanted to mention in your email where you mentioned about the covenant, the Brigstock and Lynn covenant,
Yes.
which means they can't build more than 25 feet high.
Now that's an interesting one.
Yeah,
It's one of these
interesting,
sort of perhaps fake news, perhaps rumour, perhaps inaccurate. It actually came from the Lectors Fishing and Boating Club. I don't know, is anyone here from there? Yes.
Yes.
And apparently this was
4
what
metres.
came. Is this correct?
Yeah, it was Tony Willings was involved in it right at the beginning. But the 4 metre height rule is there now. It's still there.
It's still there, and it came from the Isle of Wight Council? Or
Yes, I think so, yeah.
we can, but there is. It would have come from the Brigstock estate, yes, but I think the Isle of Wight Council, where they put it forward about the height of the clubhouse. They put forward the.
What's happening, it has to stop the view of the townscape.
Yes.
You know, from
Yes.
the sea, it's
Yeah.
exceptional.
So basically, there is that, and you have details, yes?
I've got details from the early days, yes.
Yes, wonderful. Okay, thank you. The other thing I wanted to say was, sorry? No, but I do know, yes, I do know his name. Rob?
It's Ron Shire.
Ron Shire, yes. Yes, and he's come from the Fishing and Boating Club, okay? And obviously there will be questions later to Mr. Hutchinson.
The problem is that tonight is a major committee meeting over there.
I know,
So
I know.
half of them couldn't make it here.
That's right, I
They're
know.
coming later.
But that's fine, you can represent them. Yes.
But the marina belongs to the town, doesn't it?
The freehold belongs to the Isle of Wight Council, to the best of my knowledge. Yes.
But not,
To
they
the
don't
Isle of
actually,
Wight
but
Town.
they don't actually own it. It is.
Yes,
they do.
The council own
Oh, right.
I mean, there are issues which, I mean, are again on the website, that I've put on the website, but that, yeah, with technically the council have the freehold.
on behalf of the community.
On behalf of the community, we own it, of course, but
We
through
own
the
it,
council, through the council, the Isle of Wight Council, as opposed to the Ryde Town Council. I think that's the end then of matters arising from the minutes of, and basically, I would now like to hand over to Mr. Chris Ashman, who is our Director of Regeneration, and who has very kindly come along in his spare time to tell us all about the proposals. He's come along in this. Okay. Thank you very much. Sorry, one of the
Somebody got the top.
Is there a light switch up that end? Is there a light switch down there? No, nothing for this end. Is that a light there? Look.
I'm not sure you can hear me well. If I shout?
No, that's for outside and the fan. We just turned that off.
Good evening, everyone. And thank you, Sir, for giving me the opportunity to come along and talk to the Society this evening. I came here, I think it was approximately about 6 months ago, and I sat amongst you at that meeting, and was intrigued to hear the debate about, as Stan has alluded to, the objectives of the Society, the importance and significance of the strengths of what happens in Ryde. And I was enthused and intrigued to hear a very wide selection of views as to the regeneration of the island, the regeneration of Ryde. And that was at the time when we were producing regeneration strategy. So what I wanted to do this evening was really just come back and share some of the findings and discussions that we've had, both individually and collectively with the people of Ryde over the last 6 months. Some of you will have attended the session we had at the Ryde Castle Hotel in May, where we talked about the proposals potentially for the Esplanade, where we investigated some potential options and viability of those options at that time. And we received, or we reported, that we didn't identify a project that was able to come forward as a viable proposition at that time. We were also at that May session updating on the local priorities. We've been having these workshops now in Ryde Castle for over a year, and working up local priorities to tackle, and I'll give you an update on some of those as well. But the main output of that session back in May was that there was a very strong steer for us to hold a conversation with people in Ryde to get a representative view of what the regeneration priorities should be for the area. So I was delighted to be able to work with our consulting in September. Some of you may have attended the session which they helped facilitate at Ryde Castle again, and also they had street-based sessions throughout September, and also a session with the foyer and the young people working and living there at the foyer. So I wanted to share with you some of the results of that feedback, which I think you may have previously been to a meeting and given you some feedback on those findings. So apologies if I'm repeating some of that. The Ryde Town Council position statement, which was also published in the last quarter, and how both of those now are informed a rethink really of how we move forward in Ryde. Because clearly, as we said in May, there is no development-led viable option to actually address the improvements to the Esplanade, to address the improvements to the public realm. So we had to have a rethink about how we were going to achieve that. Because I think I'd be right in saying that everybody in this room want to see some improvement, want to see change. I think the question is the how and what is the opportunity. So I think if I could share with you some of that feedback, talk about the projects that we might be working on moving forward, and what I want to emphasise and talk about later is to how we might move forward together in collaboration on tackling some of these projects, and suggest the recommendations that have come out of the consultation reports, that there is that more collective and collaborative approach to taking regeneration forward in the town. So just remember why we're here, how we got here. The regeneration programme was launched in July 2016. The regeneration strategy was published last summer. It contained these components.
And we were very anxious from the beginning of that regeneration programme to look at the different areas of the island. Area regeneration as well as island-wide regeneration was going to be important. If we're going to tackle some of these infrastructure and strategic issues the island faces, we also had to ensure that we were working in communities and identifying local issues and priorities. Not just doing that from a accept it and see approach, but actually getting evidence base as to what the issues were in different parts of the island and how those priorities might best be addressed through a regeneration programme that looked at physical improvements, that tackles skills and business development, that maybe brought forward new housing. So really what we did during that first year was take a good look at the data, understand Ryde a lot more, understand that wider area, and identified that clearly there was a significant concentration of population. I don't need to tell everybody that in terms of the island, but there were also some quite significant issues around deprivation in the community, and also then in terms of actually bringing forward solutions to those, there was a need for a more rounded approach to regeneration than purely the built environment. So some of those issues around JSA and around housing have become clear, and again, there's quite a significant issue around food poverty. So regeneration is about tackling some of those issues. It's not just about making money, it's not just about improving the private sector's opportunities, it's actually about communities changing and improving themselves. So, just to remind you, when we started sharing some of those statistics, we had the workshops in Ryde Castle, we had around 40 or 50 people turning up on a regular basis, and these were the priorities that they identified for the regeneration programme at an area level. There was a real concern about the number of empty buildings in the town, though some of those issues have come up again tonight in terms of some really important heritage status buildings, lacking a future use, lacking a design for the 21st century. How are we going to bring those buildings back into productive use to tackle some of the issues that we were possibly talking about earlier on? Ryde's got a very strong urban core, but actually in that urban environment there is quite a lack of green space in that context. So there was a real appetite to identify some localised greening within the core of the urban area of the town. And whilst there was some real progress on Network Ryde, for example, for young people, there was a recognition that that still needed to translate into a democratic voice to actually articulate a view of what Ryde needs to change and how it might be brought forward. And what I'd like to think is through the consultation process we started, and it is a start, is to actually ensure that that voice has its place, because with the greatest respect to the people in this room, we're not the future. The people in the community that matter in that context will be young people and their views and aspirations about how they want to bring forward families in the community, how they see Ryde as their town, and there was a recognition in those workshops that that needed to change. There needed to be a stronger voice from that particular demographic. So I just wanted to remind you how we got to where we are now, and I started off by reminding you about that session we had in May when we talked about those options. Okay, so the engagement section I've already mentioned. We had over 1,100 comments in those 5 sessions. There was clearly an appetite for change coming through from that feedback, and the reports available to members of the society. But there was a very strong sense it's got to be the right change. It's got to be one which is grounded in people first, in that context, in terms of community first. A real weighting towards the Esplanade and Union Street and High Street in terms of that regeneration agenda. Obviously, given our interest in the rest of Ryde, we were obviously hoping to see a lot more wider commentary about other issues beyond the immediacy of the urban core, but that's what came through for the consultation itself. And a need for a really specific, the strongest message that came from that engagement was the need for a shared vision about what the future of the car park and the ice rink and the Esplanade needs to be. And I think that was a very strong message, well received. So again, those famous word clouds, which Ian is fantastic at doing, where what we brought to this demographic is a infographic, is a graphic representation of how many times these words were referenced in those 1,100 consultations. And you'll see there, the bigger, as I've said this before, the bigger the word, the bigger the issue, the more important the priority of the issue. So you're led by some evidence. Rather than everybody assuming that, yes, that is the most important thing, the statistics and the data and the engagement and a proper analysis of that engagement is what we've now been able to secure, so that we're able now to inform the vision and process going forward. The position statement, what I've done there is given a very, very, very brief précis of what the Ryde Town Council position statement says about regeneration and future in the Ryde. And Diane mentioned that the consultation on this in itself is now being analysed. And what we would hope, obviously, is that there is, again, a cross-tabulation between the feedback from the workshop sessions and the feedback on the Ryde Town Council position statement. Some very clear, strong objectives and messages coming through from that piece of work, an extremely valuable and well-evidenced piece of research. So what I want to do now is move on to how is all that feedback now moving forward in terms of informing what regeneration project activity should look like in Ryde. And what I wanted to do is really skip through some of these projects that will be the focus for the programme in this part of the island going forward. So you remember the Empty Buildings Group. They identified the Town Hall and the Theatre as being the priority project. That group, which originally was around 15-20 people, came into a core working group of about 5 or 6 people. They've now owned the process of looking at a detailed feasibility for the Town Hall and Theatre. And what that has done is identified a whole range of potential interests from the community and the private sector to actually bring forward the Town Hall Theatre project. So I have to compliment them and compliment Ken, who's been supporting them with our finance to actually deliver a feasibility study. And obviously there are people here tonight from the Empty Buildings Group who will be able to give you a bit more background and information on where they got to so far. But in essence, our commitment is to support that group in bringing forward proposals and ideas, and to help them to convince the owners about the merits of their ideas. And if that doesn't work, the ideas might work in another building in Ryde, possibly. So that's currently where it's at. They've got a feasibility study which has been completed, and now we'll be analysing that as to see how best we can support the ideas going forward. I think I heard at the session I sat in the midst of you last time about how important the Upper High Street was in terms of the retail core for Ryde. And whilst there have been some improvements around pedestrianisation, those haven't really been fully implemented and been fully enforced so far. So there's an opportunity really to focus on that enforcement and think about pedestrianisation as a bigger opportunity, linking back to the Ryde Town Council position statement that was referred to earlier on.
The Upper High Street, could I just ask?
The Upper High Street,
is that beyond the traffic lights?
Correct, yeah.
That's what we call Upper High Street, yeah.
But there's not a great deal of...
No, I think
you can't do much up there.
It's much current partially pedestrianised. Yeah, so no, it'll be below the traffic lights. The current partially pedestrianised section.
So the other project is an environmental improvement project, which came through from the consultation itself. People identifying and highlighting the Western Gardens as an environmental opportunity. Again, in conversations with colleagues from Ryde Town Council, there's been a long-standing aspiration to bring forward an environmental improvement scheme in that part of the seafront. And our commitment is to work again to actually bring forward a scheme which suits the environment, which brings forward that opportunity for bringing another public space to be brought into the public life of Ryde. Significant opportunity through the UK government's Transforming Cities Fund. Southampton, Portsmouth and the Isle of Wight are in the position to make a bid for transport interchange improvements. So as part of that, we need to develop a business case. What type of intervention in terms of bus, train, hover, ferry relationship do we want to see in the interchange? To actually bring forward then a proposal and a funding bid to actually deliver those improvements. And that was a key requirement, if you remember, of all of that consultation and engagement work, of historic efforts to improve the interchange. And from our perspective, clearly, our original challenge was to try and find the money for that to happen. If that's going to come from a UK government funding opportunity, then we achieve the objective without it necessarily being a development-led approach. from that perspective then, clearly you recall the ice rink and the car park as being a really important part of the consultation engagement. And I think what I've learned in the last few months in particular is how proactive the community groups involved with the reuse and reopening of the ice rink have been. And I think in any role that you progress in the regeneration space, you want to support that endeavour. You want to work with those groups to bring forward a comprehensive and a viable opportunity. The challenge, of course, is that whilst we are the freeholders, the council is the freeholder of that building, it is on a very long lease to a third party. And the council has decided to really get tough with that organisation, to actually begin a legal process so that they can uphold their responsibilities to the town in terms of that lease. So we have a slightly delicate situation whereby we want to support the group to bring forward a future vision for the ice rink, but clearly we are in a litigation process as part of that agenda. So it'll be a tricky one to manage as we move on over the next few months, but clearly our appetite is to work with the local groups to identify. I think the main thing to emphasise here is that there's a recognition that it needs to be beyond purely ice arena. It needs to have more of a multi-purpose functionality to it, and needs to actually bring that opportunity forward in a way with those groups. Can I just finish the presentation and then take any questions, if that's okay? Harbour. Again, a lot of people here will be here to understand what the rationale for thinking of that opportunity is. And I think that the message that runs through all of these projects is that regeneration is about a balance between public, private and community. In any place where it's been successfully developed, that balance and equilibrium has been managed. And I think what we've got in the context of the harbour, as we have, for example, in Newport Harbour and in Ventnor, is a real challenge in terms of a cost to the council, to the community. Because any cost to the council is a cost to the community. It means that...
Just interrupt.
It's in
Well,
profit.
I'd like to finish the presentation, if that's okay.
Brian Harbour doesn't cost the council
No, it's in profit.
So from that,
But it's in profit.
what I think we'll come on to when we deal with the questions is what we anticipate the costs
that
will
is
be.
key. You can't make a statement like that
Okay.
if it's not true.
So from a harbour perspective, there is a recognition from the users of the harbour that there is a need to improve the product, improve the services available.
That's a different